So I have the Elantra back up on ramps today because we're doing a little bit more maintenance. This time around, it's not engine oil. Oh no, it's transmission fluid. So I'm getting around to changing out the OEM transmission fluid that comes in this and upgrading to a more premium red line fluid that is supposed to help these quirky DCTs act a little bit more normal. This video is also going to double as a tutorial for those who might want to do this to their own Elantras, and we'll see how it goes. So without any more delay, let me get into it. First, we're going to start with what we need to get the job done. Okay, so here is an assortment of all the things that I believe anyone's going to need to do this job. It should be fairly easy on this car. So of course the first thing we need is a little PPE, just some gloves and some rags to pick up anything that might spill. Of course, we need our transmission fluid. This is what's recommended. This is a red line fluid. This is a 70-75 weight fluid. Manual transmission, low viscosity. This is what this is supposed to take, and supposedly, I cannot verify this, but those who use this fluid say that this is the only non-OEM fluid recommended by Hyundai for use in these transmissions. So, yeah, if they say it's good, I guess it's good. So this is what you want. You need 2 quarts to get the job done. Also, you need one of these things. According to a little tutorial I found online, they say using a little pump like this, you basically stick it in top there, and it's a little hand pump. It helps a lot get, these quarts in where they gotta go. So, because it is a little bit of a tight squeeze, like $5 at Wally World. Not a big deal. So you're going to need that. You're also going to need a 3/8 inch ratchet. You're going to need either a 3/8 inch drive 24mm. I don't have that, so I got a 1/2 inch 24mm. This is for the drain plug. And then you're going to need a 8mm hex bit. This is to loosen up the fill plug. So I have to have 2 separate sockets to do that. And if you really want to get crazy and do it the really right way, then get yourself a torque wrench too, because both fill and drain plugs do have a recommended torque setting. Additionally, each drain plug has a crush washer on them. It is probably recommended that you change that while you do it. They're very inexpensive. Really, you can get them a couple bucks online. I did my best to source them from multiple local dealerships, and I could not find them. So I'm like, okay, well, if this is something that's supposed to be done, obviously you guys have a lot of cars coming in for maintenance. Why don't you have any? Is it because you just use them while doing it? And honestly, what the techs told me, they don't change them. They say that the crush washers on the drain plugs are actually good for about 1, maybe 2 uses. So I'm going to take their word for it. If they're OEM trained and certified, that's a little bit more than I know. So I'm going to be reusing the ones that are on the plugs now, but you can get new ones along with it and change it all at the same time. Also, if it wasn't obvious, you're going to need to get yourself a drain pan and a creeper if you don't have one. It just makes getting under the car a lot easier, and ramps. This is just the easiest way of doing this. You don't have to get the car up any higher than this to do this job. Super, super easy. So let's go ahead and come under here and find the transmission. So looking at the transmission, this is the front of the car. If we look up top here, this is your fill port. And we follow the seam of the transmission all the way back. Right here, that's your drain port. So first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and crack our fill port plug, which is on there a lot tighter than I was expecting. Had to break out the big guns. Had to get a breaker bar for that one. Need a little extra leverage if you even have a, what do you call it? Like a piece of pipe or something just to throw over the end of the ratchet. Give you a little more leverage. You should be golden. Finish removing this. And there is our fill plug. Oh, I can smell the smell. I am really curious to know how bad this fluid is going to be. The car has about, 22,000 miles on it. So very early in the, interval here, way sooner than Honda even recommends. But this is precautionary maintenance and, to see if it helps anything. So Can't hurt, right? So let's go ahead and crack the drain plug here. Ooh, that one's a lot easier than the fill. And let's go ahead and see what this looks like. Okay, that's a lot darker than I was honestly expecting it to look, considering the mileage. So I'm gonna let it do its thing, get as much of that old fluid out there as possible, and then we'll go ahead and figure out this fill procedure. All right, let's take a closer look at what 22,000 mile transmission fluid looks like. That is a lot darker than I was expecting. Thankfully, I don't see any chunks of metals or shimmery things or shavings. It looks good in that aspect. It is just a lot darker in coloration than I would expect for this mileage. I'm just happy to see that there are no metal shavings or metal bits. That's the part that makes me happy. So, not much I can complain about there. So, now I'm curious to know how this fill procedure works, because depending on how successful I am with it, depends on how I continue to do it, because we can either do it this way, which someone had recommended who has done this before, or we're gonna do it an old school way and see how that goes. But we're gonna try this first. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that a little pump like this it's gonna make the difference. So let's go ahead and get this set up in one of our bottles of transmission fluid here, and we'll see how it goes. All right, there's that. And we got our little tubey thing here. Not the right size thread, but it does fit in there, so that's fine. But I gotta put this little extra piece of tubing in place, so hopefully it reaches all the way down to the bottom there. And then we just, gotta make sure that's undone. I guess from here we just stick this in the fill port and we start pumping away, us guys. Hey, we're good at pumping things, right? Let's go ahead and get this done. All right, get our pump up in here. Stick our tube in the hole. Guys, we know all about that too, right? Can I get an amen? All right, well, interestingly enough, there is, it feels like there's a gear right there, right at the entrance of the fill hole. So this barely goes in at all. I have a feeling this is going to be a two-hand job. So I'm going to put the camera down and we're going to see how this goes. And I'm not going to lie, this pump thing actually worked pretty good. And you just want to keep pumping until it starts kind of like seeping out of your fill hole here. And well, that's when you know you're full. We're going to go and get our proper plug over here, put it back up there, and this one will get torqued down to about 50 foot-pounds or so. Same thing with the drain plug. Forgot to mention that. And we're all good. Last thing to do is just clean up our area here. A little bit. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. And we have just successfully changed the transmission fluid. Alright, I will say, if you're going to top it off, you're going to need more than 2 bottles of this fluid. I ended up reusing some of the old fluid. It looked clean enough, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'm probably just going to end up changing this out in another 20,000 miles anyway, because it's so easy on this car. The actual specs are like 1.8 or 1.9 liters or something. You can do it that way, or you can fill, old school way until it comes out the port, which is what I did to make sure that it is completely full and it is good to go. But yes, changing transmission fluid in this car is a breeze compared to some of my older cars that I've had, especially the EcoBoost Mustang. That was not as easy by a long shot. Now to finish the job off right, like I do with all of my maintenance, I make my own invoice. I recommend anyone who does their own maintenance to do the same, especially this is only really important if you're under warranty. But yeah, if you're going to do your maintenance under warranty, make sure you do this, because let me tell you, the manufacturers and the dealerships are not your friends. But just like I do with my oil changes, I got my receipt that has my fluid Then I have my invoice with what was done and the part number of the fluid and everything, date, all of that good stuff, and then a photocopy of the actual mileage just for verification, and that is that. This will get put somewhere safe with the rest of my maintenance history on this car in case anything goes wrong. I have an easy way to prove to Hyundai everything was done. So now that leaves me with only one last thing to do to wrap up the video. Let's go for a test drive, see how the car is. All right, we're setting sail. Fresh transmission fluid. I am curious to know if there's any difference. Now I know what you're thinking. You're like, hey, that's a dry dual clutch transmission. That fluid has absolutely nothing to do with why it shifts weird. Well, yeah, I agree for the most part. Now there's a theory with some of the owners of these vehicles who speculate that these transmissions control clutch engagement based off temperature of the fluid. The OEM fluid gets hotter quicker, or something along that effect, thus causing the car to slip the shifts more under part throttle, yada yada. At least that's the going theory for the most part, in a nutshell. But we'll see once and for all if there's any difference. So far, it's about the same, no difference. Actually, maybe just a tad smoother on the shifts, but nothing crazy. All right. Hey, you know what? There's a little bit of a shift flare there, but once again, that's not getting fixed by fluid, but I can tell you the actual gear changes themselves do feel a little bit smoother. Not like it was bad before, but perhaps it's just a tiny bit better. It's really hard to say though. Let's give it a nice little 1-2 shift. Let's see how she does. Hey, not too bad. It actually does feel a little smoother on the watt shifts, not as clunky. Let me go ahead and throw her in sport mode. It's supposed to be, you know, a little bit more aggressive on that shifting. Let's see how it does here. Yeah, it's a little better. I will say it's not like a monumental difference, but it's a little better. And I would imagine as this new fluid gets used, you know, get some heat cycles in it and maybe behave a little bit better. I'm just so happy that Hyundai made it so incredibly easy to do. It just makes me happy knowing someone who likes doing their own maintenance isn't going to have a struggle doing their own maintenance, at least on this car, okay? One thing I can say, it's not my fastest car, but the maintenance so far is, you know, it's easy. It's things that most people can easily do at their homes, in their driveways, in their garages, saving yourselves a bunch of money. Not bad. I actually do like that a lot about this car. And ease of maintenance honestly isn't something I would expect from Hyundai compared to a lot of the domestic brands that I've had. But compared to a lot of the Fords I've had, this car is so much easier in so many ways to maintain. I guess it gets some golden points there, you know? Not too bad. I'm just happy that that's done. I'll probably do it again in another 20, maybe 30,000 miles because it's just so simple, so easy, and it only takes, well, now I know I should get 3 quarts, but still, so much better than some other cars that can take up to, you know, 8 to 10 quarts of transmission fluid costing, oh, I don't know, like $12 to $15 a quart. So yeah, I'll take the wins where I can get it. But overall, mission accomplished. Transmission fluid has been changed. We're all good. Keeping maintenance good up here on the Elantra, so hopefully it lasts a good amount of time. But otherwise, I think it's going to wrap it up here for the video. If you liked the video, please give a thumbs up, share with everyone you know. If you want to see more content like this and you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Keep a lookout for the next Karz Kreated video.